When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. So at American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.
Hello and welcome to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. My name is Chanel Bunger, and today I'm excited to speak with Matt Wolf of RSM, who joins us weekly to share insights into some economic trends that he's keeping an eye on. Matt, thank you as always for joining me today. Why don't you take it away and tell us what you're seeing out there?
Thanks, Chanel. Yeah, as we wrap up 2024, we're really looking at capital flows, amongst other things, right? And one piece of research that caught my eye that's sort of consistent with the narrative we've seen, right, and talked about on this podcast before is just the flow of funds from public markets, particularly public equity markets, but also public like high yield debt markets into private markets, into private equity and private credit, and how that kind of affects investing, how it affects management, execution, decisions, and just sort of the overall capital market outlook. Recent Amundi Create Research piece I came across suggested that based off PitchBook data in 2000, we had 9,000 companies in the U.S. of above a certain size threshold, and of that, 7,000 of those 9,000 were public, 2,000 private. Now we're at about 15,000 companies, but only about 4,800 of those are publicly traded, with almost 10,000 being privately held. And there's a complex rationale for this. A lot of it is expense of being public. Is a primary one, regulatory scrutiny. The other things of being a public company is a large piece of that, and amongst other factors. And so we've really seen this shift into these private markets, and at a certain point the pendulum will begin to swing back. What will that be? 2025? We'll see. There's a handful of factors at play. We do expect to see a more robust IPO market next year, at least based on where we sit today, and the kind of market and macro environment seems that we'll see a robust IPO market compared to 2023 and 2024. Probably not compared to 2021, but a growing market for IPOs will be part of that. Also, the public equity markets, part of the reason that we've seen so many investors move towards private markets is, especially if we look at the equity markets, public equity markets, those returns and benchmarks are really dominated by a handful of stocks, and to sort of outperform those benchmarks is hard if you're not just invested in the dominating stocks. And so it sort of lends itself to these private markets where the trade-off is, yes, you may get an outsized return, but your capital is locked up further. And we've seen some investors begin to prefer liquidity, which also might put more money into the public markets, along with IPO activity. But also we think that as we continue to work through this macroeconomic regime change, we're going to see more dispersion of economic returns of publicly held, publicly listed companies that are not, the high performing tech stocks that we read about in the financial press every day, right? There will be winners in a sort of a pure financial outperform the index type of return, and smaller publicly traded, pick an industry type of companies. So we think that some of this preference for private equity, private debt, private credit funding will return to public markets next year. It's still going to be a private equity private credit is still going to be a robust asset class, but we might begin to see some more of that money come back into public markets next year, particularly if some of these regulatory scrutiny issues are addressed. So these funds and these preferences of institutional investors between private and public financing channels and asset classes, something we've been watching really since for a long time, and we look forward to see how that will change, potentially move a little bit more money back into the public markets in 2025.
Perfect. Well, Matt, I want to thank you as always for joining me today. I think we have one more meeting next week and then we're off for the holidays and looking forward to picking it back up in the new year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chanel.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. At American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.